Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to put down a clean shop rag to start with. But today we're going to take a look at an Ego chainsaw. The customer complaint was that it's leaking oil. And he wasn't just a kid and it was leaking oil. This thing came in a plastic bag and everything was covered in oil. And it's really amazing how much oil was in there considering the size of the little oil tank that's on this saw, but I guess a little bit of bar oil goes a long way when it comes to making a mess. I mean, here's the oil tank itself. Not really that big, but it's got a leak somewhere. And it leaked everywhere inside this saw. And here we have the new oil tank and an oil pump that comes with it. They're both under the same part number. So we're going to replace that. I've got all the parts cleaned up now. It took a lot of time. And I ordered, this was a couple of weeks now. So, I don't really remember how it came apart. I've got it organized pretty well. But like that piece I just had in my hand, I don't really remember off the top of my head what it is or where it goes. But I kind of like puzzles, so we'll figure this out. And the way these things are built, they are kind of like a puzzle. Kind of hard to get things wrong, but I guess where there's a will, there's a way, right? So this motor mechanism here houses the pump, and there's a mount in the case half right there that is a barbed fitting basically. There's a new one in the package here with the pump. So we're going to try to remember how this goes back together. Take the old pump off, single screw holding it in place. To take that back, there's two screws holding it in place. But it's just a matter of lining everything up and figuring it out. Now, I should have taken pictures when I pulled it apart, but I guess that would make it too easy putting it together, right? Well, you might be thinking, just go to the Ego dealer portal and look at the breakdown of this saw. Well, that wouldn't do you any good at all because I think the oil tank was like one of the few parts you can actually get for this. Otherwise, it's an entire assembly. The electrical system might be another part number. I don't remember. I wasn't really looking at the electrical system. So we're kind of pre-fitting things here to see how it goes. That hose in the tank runs through this plate and it gets pushed onto the end of the pump. But because I already screwed the pump down, I can't really gain access to that barbed fitting. Which isn't a bad design at all. It's a good design because the hose is kept on the barbed fitting from a little bit of pressure that's applied to it when the screws are tightened down. And it appears to be a fumbly process. I should have put the pump on the hose first before I tried to screw the pump down to the motor plate. This is one of those jobs where maybe if I do the next one, it'll go a little bit better, but I probably really hope I don't have to do a next one. It's not bad work, but this kind of left a bad taste in my mouth just because of how messy it was as far as oil being everywhere. I mean, the electronics were covered in oil. The inside of this case was just full of it. Wish I had that on video, but I don't. You can see there's still a lot of residue in here because I keep wiping my hands. So here's a bag of goodies. All our hardware and some chunk of felt. That piece, really don't remember how that went on there. I think it goes just like that on the clutch drum. Chain guide plate, chain brake, some rod for something or other, some washers, and a whole bunch of screws. So we're screwing down the motor plate to the case half, and then we'll tighten it down. Look at him go. Ego. Alright, we have a stop switch right here. I say stop switch because it's the chain brake stop switch. And there's a mount in that plate for it. We just drop it into the slot. It fits real nice. You know, I kind of bash the Ego a little bit here, but I really shouldn't. It's a simple design, and it seems to be working, and they're quite popular. And to be fair, I don't remember the company ever denying a warranty claim, at least as far as I'm concerned. So there was a single screw holding that stop switch in place. We got that down. Here's our brake handle. Trying to decide if that's the next part that should go in here or not. Apparently not. I set it to the side. This piece of ductwork is going to go over the motor plate. And that's exactly what it is. You can see that there's a fan on the end of the motor, and this is directing some cooling air. So on this side we're going to have the chain brake, the clutch drum. And I will admit to having edited some video out of here. The chain brake spring on this, well, it's not super strong. It's strong enough. The way this plastic housing is built, it's not the easiest thing to compress and get down into place. So if it looks like I did a little bit of editing to speed that up, I did. So we got the brake band around the clutch drum. We've got the spring compressed. Then there's just a big flat washer and an E-clip, which is really no different than a lot of chainsaws out there, gas-powered ones. We still keep grabbing that brake handle like we want to put that on there, but I'm not sure what's next yet. Maybe that piece of felt? I don't even know if that's in the right spot. So if you're using this video as a reference of how to put one of these together, you probably should look at the way it comes apart before you just assume that's where that piece of felt goes. So we flip the saw back over, and we're working on the trigger mechanism now. And this assembly, it's a little scattered and it looks a little broken up. And it looks like it jumps back and forth. And that is because it does. You know, I'm not sitting at home making a YouTube video. I'm in a shop environment where I get interrupted and get pulled away to do this or do that, and then I got to come back and remember where I left off. So when you work in that kind of environment and you get interrupted all the time, you kind of get used to it. It is frustrating in the beginning, and it does add time to a job. You know, we don't pass that extra time on to the customer, but it's like anything else. The more it happens, the more you get used to it, the more you learn how to deal with it. So walking away from a puzzle and coming back to it, it can sometimes lead to do-overs, and when you're trying to make a video of it, you know, it gets busted up a little bit. So we put our oil pump in place, or I should say our oil tank. And I'm just kind of temporarily putting this half on here so I decide if I'm happy with it or not. We're going to go back and do the chain brake side. Looks like the brake stayed in place while I had it flipped over. Again, we're putting that piece of felt there, and I'm not sure if that's where it goes. And then we'll put this cover over the top. Get our screws all run down in here. Got a chain guide plate, no different than a gasoline powered chainsaw. And a single screw holding that in place. We're getting close. Looks like our brake mechanism is working. It's a good thing. Must have got interrupted again. I don't see any screws on the bench, so it looks like I screwed the two halves together. We're going to get some oil in here, put the battery in it, and see if this thing works and oils. And if it does, then that's all I'm going to have for you on the Ego Chainsaw Puzzle. Thanks for watching. Later.